This is particularly clear since the two-state solution enjoys global consensus, and the aim of both processes is the long overdue independence of the Palestinian state, a right denied for over 63 years since the partition, and the achievement of a just and lasting peace. Madam President, the current reality of the Israeli occupation and the situation of the Palestinian Authority cannot be sustained. Israel cannot continue to exploit and benefit from the occupation without consequences, absolved of its responsibility as an occupying power. The current situation must either change or Israel must assume full responsibility as the occupying power. I'd like to repeat that. The current situation must either change or Israel must assume full responsibility as the occupying power. The status quo cannot be maintained as we move forward, for it is absolutely untenable. Indeed, the situation on the ground continues to worsen and tensions continue to rise. In the midst of the serious diplomatic efforts being exerted by all concerned parties, Israel has instead intensified its illegal settlement campaign in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, gobbling up more Palestinian land with its construction and expansion of settlements and the wall, destroying more Palestinian homes and properties, and displacing more Palestinian families, in addition to permitting the terror rampages of the Israeli settlers against our civilians, their homes, their lands and trees, and their mosques. Such actions by Israel must be seen for what they are: a concrete negative reaction to the efforts by the international community, including the Quartet, in favor of its occupation and expansionist annexation agenda. How else can one explain the provocative and arrogant declarations in just the last 3 weeks regarding the construction of nearly 4,000 more settlement units? How else can one explain the deliberate planning and expansion of settlements and the attempts to entrench settlement outposts through legislation, particularly in occupied East Jerusalem and Bethlehem, all measures which are severing the northern and southern parts of the West Bank, encircling occupied East Jerusalem, and separating it from its natural Palestinian environs, and totally undermining the contiguity and viability of our state. There is no justification for these illegal Israeli measures, and no explanation other than that this Israeli government is neither interested in the two-state solution, nor is it interested in peace and security, and is instead choosing to continue its occupation and subjugation of an entire nation of people and continue the conflict. This obstruction of peace has also been underscored in the recent period by the occupying power's intensification of its elite ill-treatment and abuse of the thousands of Palestinian civilians that remain imprisoned in its jails and detention centers. We have drawn your attention to their plight, including the hunger strike that began on 27 September in a series of letters, and we call on the Security Council to uphold international law vis-à-vis the situation of our prisoners. The international community, including the high contracting parties to the Fourth Geneva Convention, must demand that Israel comply with its legal obligations and cease its abuse of Palestinian prisoners, who include hundreds of children, some as young as 12 years old, and the ICRC must be given unfettered access. In this regard, the recent prisoner exchange is a very important development. We welcome the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, and we await the release of the thousands of others who continue to unjustly languish in Israeli prisons. Yet another unsustainable situation is the Israeli blockade of the Gaza Strip, which has inflicted so much suffering on the Palestinian civilian population. All pretexts for continuing this illegal blockade must be rejected, and the international community must be unanimous in demanding that Israel fully lift the blockade and allow for the sustained and regular movement of persons and goods into and out of the Gaza Strip for reconstruction of destroyed homes, properties, and infrastructure, and for rehabilitation of our society there, which has been so damaged by this vicious form of collective punishment by the occupying power. Madam President, the Palestinian leadership remains committed to peace and committed to negotiating seriously all final status issues: the Palestine refugees, Jerusalem, settlements, borders, security, and water, when the appropriate environment is secured. However, we will not enter into negotiations for the sake of negotiations. The situation on the ground and the two-state solution itself are too fragile to withstand further delays and sabotage. Israel, the occupying power, must be speedily compelled to commit to negotiations along the clear parameters we have already committed to. While committed to the peace process, we must reiterate clearly the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. Freedom and independence is not up for negotiation, nor will it be the product of negotiations. This is an inalienable right and is the sole domain of the Palestinian people. It has never been an issue for negotiations with Israel, nor will it ever be. Negotiations on the core issues and the expression of our self-determination should not be confused by Israel or others as one and the same, because they are not. And Israel, as the occupying power, should not be allowed to continue obstructing and dictating the terms of our exercise of this inalienable right. We are determined to achieve this right and all of the legitimate national aspirations of our people. We are determined to bring an end to the injustice endured by our people, including the grave injustice inflicted on our refugees. We are determined to peacefully achieve the independence of the State of Palestine, with East Jerusalem as its capital, based on the pre-67 borders. This achievement will be the core of a just and lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Arab-Israeli conflict as a whole. We are grateful for the long-standing support of the international community in this journey and urge that no effort be spared at this critical crossroads to make this a reality, and this clearly requires that the Security Council responsibly uphold its charter duties. And I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the Permanent Observer of Palestine for his